Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back. It is that time of the year again. The college football season is upon us. That means a couple things. It means I'm going to be hammered every Saturday watching college football. It also means that the From the Stands college football show is back. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we are here for another year of, just everybody's favorite sport. There's nothing like it. Going through some changes this year, which we will get to later. But I'm Andy Hopper. I'm joined by the one and only Tom Scavetta. Unfortunately, our leader Brian McCardle is not with us this week. I believe he's in Europe. Where is he? Is he in Europe?
He's somewhere in Europe. Yeah.
He's off the grid. He
No
doesn't
clue.
want anybody to know. He had to pay for cell service. We've heard from him about one time. So we decided, hey, we're going to take the reins and we're going to do this thing. So, Tom, how excited are you for college football? We're back for another year, 2024. Your Notre Dame Fighting Irish are in the conversation, my friend. Number 7 coming into the season. We all know people can put as much stock as they want into these preseason rankings, right? We're not really going to know until they start playing the games. Starting out with Texas A&M, we're going to talk about that later as well. Give me your overall consensus. How are we feeling about the Irish this year?
Well, Andy, it's a new year and it's a new transfer quarterback once again. This time it's Riley Leonard from Duke. Notre Dame loves their ACC transfer quarterbacks. Last year it was Sam Hartman. This year it's Riley Leonard. Leonard, more of a modern style quarterback who can run and pass well. Hartman could run too, more of a pocket passer. Personally, I think Hartman was the slightly better quarterback, but I'm excited to see what Riley Leonard brings to the table. And let me tell you something, Andy. Notre Dame coming out guns blazing, going to Texas A&M week 1. So I don't want to hear anything this year. Oh, Notre Dame doesn't have a schedule. We got Florida State on there. We saw what Georgia Tech did in Ireland in week 0. So, yeah, I'm really excited for the Irish, and they got better at wide receiver. Bo Collins coming in from Clemson, Chris Mitchell in from FIU, and get this, 4 grad students starting on the defensive line. Don't you just love that? I mean, that's great. Who's better than us?
I saw a stat for as much experience as you guys are going to have on the defensive line. I think this is the first year in it was something crazy, like 20 or 30 years that there is not going to be a senior starting offensive lineman on opening day for the Irish this year.
And our starting left tackle is out for the season. Charles Jagashaw is out for the year. He was supposed to replace Joe Alt, Andy, and Antoine Knapp, I believe his name is. He's going to have to try to fill the void at left tackle. 0 seniors on the line. You got guys like Pat Coogan and Rocco Spindler back, Ashton Craig as well. But to be honest, I believe his name is Nick Scorton or something like that. Scourton. Good luck for Knapp on Saturday going up against him. I'm watching that matchup and, all season, right? 2 years ago, Notre Dame started out really, really bad because the offensive line was bad. But I think what saves them this year is they have a more mobile quarterback. They don't have a guy like a Jack Cohn or a Drew Pine or a Sam Hartman, a guy who's not very mobile.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm excited to watch him. We were talking about it earlier off show. I said I kind of like it when these teams are, actually play somebody worth a shit week 1, and it's not cupcakes. I was putting together the shots and chasers for this week, and it was a little difficult because a lot of them are just, it's like, for example, my Fighting Illini going up against the mighty Panthers of Eastern Illinois tomorrow night, 8 p.m. I'll be in attendance. Super excited for it. There's just nothing like going to a college football game. It is going to be a good time, and hopefully they beat the shit out of EIU. But if you're talking about Illinois, which I could talk your fucking head off about it, what I'm more confident in this year is the offense. So it's going to be it's a big year for Illinois and Brett Bielema's team. They need to bounce back disappointing year last year, finishing 5-7 after, an 8-4 year, which was this close, in my opinion, to being a 10-2 year, but that's a conversation for another time. And then to kind of follow it up by missing a bowl game with the talent on the roster that you thought you had, several draft picks in this past draft that were there, and to not make a bowl game, it kind of left a sour taste in your mouth. So this year, hoping to get back to the postseason, and I think it's going to be a really, really fun offense to watch. So you have Luke Altmaier, who's coming back. He did get hurt at the end of last year, lost his job for the last 4 games to John Paddock, absolute legend, who was a transfer senior who came in his last shot at college football, and it was actually a really cool story. But Altmaier is back, and we got some weapons for him this year. You were talking about transfers from Notre Dame. How about a transfer for Illinois coming in from Ole Miss by way of UTSA? Zachary Franklin at receiver, one of the active leading receivers in college football right now. And to get a guy like that added to this offense is going to pay dividends, in my opinion. You also have a guy like Pat Bryant, who's primed for a big year, and I believe set himself up to be an NFL draft pick. You also have Caden Fagan in the backfield, sophomore, who took over the duties last year as a freshman and absolutely balled out. 6'3", 250, Tom. He is a freak. You also have Josh McCray coming back in the backfield. Hopefully he's able to bounce back. Really battled through injuries this past year. And then the big question for me is, what is the defense going to look like? You have guys like Alec Bryant coming back at the linebacker position. You have guys like Matthew Bailey in the secondary. They also brought in a few transfers. They got Terrence Brooks to come to Champaign from Texas. And he was a starter at Texas as well. So looking for big things from him. Seth Coleman, an edge rusher. We need him to be big this year. So the big question for me is the defense, because that was the big question mark last year. Second-year defensive coordinator Aaron Henry. How does he respond? What does this group looks like? I also really like Miles Scott, a defensive back who's coming back. He's a junior, converted wide receiver, looking for a way to find the field, and he did it in the secondary, and he made some big plays for Illinois last year. Offensive line should be good. A really solid group who they've really just been the same all through camp, led by Josh Kreutz, the center. You had a guy in Kevin Wigginton come over from Michigan State. You also had J.C. Davis transfer in, so they'll be big players on that offensive line. So it's bowl or bust this year for me, and I'm excited because I actually have Saturdays off for the first time in, I think, the history of this show. So I will be trying to make as many games as possible. But like I said, I could talk your ear off about the Illini all day. So let me get back to something that people other than myself want to hear about. Let's do our way too early Heisman predictions, Tom. So we each have a favorite and a dark horse. The Heisman it's the most polarizing conversation in college football most years, and it starts really as soon as the national championship ends. The Heisman winner for next year is already getting talked about, and they have been really all off season, with a couple guys really sticking out. Tom, I'll let you take it over here. Talk Heisman. Let's talk favorites. Let's talk dark horse, and then we can have a general conversation about some people we may have missed.
Yeah. So, you want my Heisman favorite, right? And then I could analyze like maybe a guy or two.
Yeah.
I've been high on this guy since last year. I saw him live at America's largest cocktail party. You know where I'm going with this, Andy. A meat and potatoes style quarterback. Carson Beck, man, out of Georgia. Look, he's entering just his second year as a starter, but he's a senior. He sat behind Stetson Bennett for 2 years. He knows what he's doing. Last year, he threw for 3,900 yards, 24 touchdowns, and just 6 picks. They got returners at the receiving core with Dominic Lovett, Oscar Delp. And remember, even though Brock Bowers declared for the draft after 3 seasons, Oscar Delp had to start half the year last year when Bowers was out with injury. So Delp is a guy who has a lot of big-time SEC in-game experience. Dylan Bell and Colby Young are 2 excellent options as well. And then in the backfield, Trevor Etienne, transferring in from Florida, is going to help him out. You want to get that running game established to give Beck time to throw. And that O-line is highlighted by impact players on the right side. Carson Beck loves to throw to his right on his first look. Tate Ratledge and Xavier Truss, both fifth-year seniors, huge hogs, like Southern hogs, Andy, staring in front of them. They are huge, badass men that you would find in the middle of the woods at night in the great state of Georgia. So, look, Carson Beck is in line for a fantastic year. We saw just a tidbit of what he could do last year in the SEC. He was just stuck behind dad-aged like Stetson Bennett for a couple of years. And then, of course, Andy, one factor on this team that gets overlooked is Kirby Smart. One of the youngest premier coaches in the game, in my opinion, right now. He's the best. If he's not the best, he's certainly top 2, top 3. He is that good. Georgia is once again favorites to win the national championship. I'd say by at least 20-25% of people are thinking that, probably more. But yeah, they're so good offensively and defensively. They have a lot. It's just an all-around well-oiled machine. So this is sort of the chalky answer. Carson Beck is my Heisman favorite. For my dark horse, look, I'm going to go deep here on this one. I don't even know if you're going to expect this from me. So, look, I considered a lot of guys. I considered Cam Ward. I even considered Haynes King after last week's performance in week 0, but he's only a sophomore or a junior. I went deeper than that. I went to a guy that didn't even play last year, Cam Rising.
I knew it because I was thinking about doing the same thing, Tom. And yeah, absolutely. But you go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
That's great. Look, there were other options that I could have thrown in there, like Luther Burden, Ollie Gordon. I know he had off the field stuff, but look, Cam Rising is the guy. 25 years old. Yes, that's right. 25. Also, his best weapon is back in Brant Kuth. He's back healthy at the tight end position. In 2022, Rising tossed for nearly 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 7 picks. Why not pick that old guy that nobody really gives a chance or gives a shit about, like a Stetson Bennett, a guy who is probably going to be a day 3 pick or priority free agent in the 2025 NFL draft if he does declare? That's what happened to Stetson Bennett. But hey, he still won the Heisman, though. So I think Cam Rising is a great candidate. He has some decent receivers, too. And look, Andy, I'm really excited to see what Utah can do this year. The Big 12, I believe, right?
They're in the Big 12, and they're the favorites in the Big 12. A lot of people picking the Utes. Cam Rising, I believe, could come back for another year if he wanted to. I think he has an extra one because of the injury last year, which would be his 8th season of college football. I don't think he wants to do that. I think he's hoping, like you said, Tom, he's going to declare for the draft and get picked. But yeah, so I was going to go with Rising. So I'm going to pivot for my dark horse, but for my favorite, I'm really between 2 guys, and I think I'm going to go with Quinn Ewers. I think Dylan Gabriel is going to be way up there as well. I think the Oregon's offense is just going to be awesome. And again, he is a sick, not again, I should say, but to speak to these transfers and extra years, Dylan Gabriel on his 6th year of college football this year and 3rd team. So he is Oregon's starting quarterback this year. He's going to be set up in a very, very good system, which he has been used to at both stops so far on his college career. So he's going to be set up for success. But I really like Ewers. I loved what he did last year with Texas. Really brought them back into the national spotlight and say, hey, we're a player again. He went 34-79 through the air, 22 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Really nice ratio there, Tom. We have to bring it up. Really nice ratio in lieu of Brian not being here. But I think he is kind of in that same boat. He's technically a junior, so he could come back again. But at this point for him, I feel like it's about, building draft stock and then declaring, and then it's the Arch Manning show. in Austin next year. But I'm going to take Ewers for my for my favorite, and then for my dark horse, I'm gonna let me look here. Let me man, you fucking took mine, Tom. I can't believe it. I want to be different. No, it's like we're two of the greatest college football minds on the internet, of course. So
why not?
Likely. I'm trying to pull up this one I was looking at.
Grayson McCall.
Grayson. What if it's not a quarterback? What if we go a little bit different here and we go a guy you mentioned, Luther Burden from Missouri, primed for another great year through the air. He's got Brady Cook throwing him the ball again. He was one guy I was thinking about before I had settled on Rising, and it's so funny because I was like, Tom's gonna love this pick. I was like, Tom is gonna absolutely love it, and then you just took it right out from under me. But Missouri, like, I'm not a big Missouri guy. They're technically a rival of Illinois. We used to play football every year. They still play basketball every year. I remember going to those in St. Louis when I was a kid. But last year, 86 receptions, 1,200 yards, and 9 touchdowns. This guy is setting himself up to be a first-round NFL draft pick, especially if he's putting up numbers like this again. He's a junior. He is 5'11", 208, so like not that typical NFL size. But for the college game, he is just he's figured something out, and I think, why not? In 2020, it was Devonta Smith. At the beginning of the year, he was plus 10,000 to win. 2016, Lamar Jackson was plus 10,000 to win in the preseason. Last year, Jaden Daniels, obviously, plus 1,000 would have been a nice little payout there. But yeah, those are our dark horses. Tom, who do we miss? Anybody that you like? Do you think just missed the cut for you? Anybody else you were thinking about?
Just missed the cut. I mean, the two guys I mentioned before, Gordon and Burden. I did think of Brady Cook as well for a hot second. I wouldn't really consider the Colorado guys necessarily dark horses.
Right.
Maybe like Travis Hunter, but again, he plays two different positions. And I feel like if you're going outside of the quarterback position, that player has to have like as good of a season as Devontae Smith had 4 years ago at Alabama. So for me, it's going to be all quarterbacks. It's going to be all chalk. And super deep here, Andy. Super, super deep. Cade Klubnik.
Okay.
Like, if you want to go deeper than that, and I hate to say it, you know how I feel about Clemson, right?
Oh, I know. So all right. So if I'm looking at these are the live Heisman betting odds. We'll just do this real quick and we'll move on. Dylan Gabriel plus 500, Carson Beck plus 800, Ewers is plus 1,200, Jalen Milroe plus 1,200 as well.
Ooh.
Will Howard, Nico Ilamaleva. We're gonna have fun saying that this year. Jackson Dart, Cam Ward, all plus 1,400. Garrett Nussmeier, 1,800. Avery Johnson, 2,500. Drew Aller, 3,000. Jackson Arnold, Connor Wegman, Cam Rising, Brady Cook, Riley Leonard, Miller Moss, all plus 3,000. So there's some names on here. Excuse me. Holy shit. There's some names on here. Travis Hunter, you were just talking about, plus 6,000. Luther Burden, plus 6,500. Ollie Gordon, another name you mentioned, plus 7,500. So I don't know. It's worth a couple bucks. Cheer on these guys for the season. But those are our way too early Heisman predictions, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to go to our next segment. Before we do, I want to remind you, please give us a like on this video. Subscribe if you're a big college football fan. Comment, tell us what your favorite team is. Comment about our takes if you think we're wrong. We want to hear about it. If you think we're right, we'd love to hear that even more, obviously. So we're at From the Stands on YouTube, and then check us out. We're on Facebook and Twitter as well. Tom, we were talking about changes in college football this year, and I think the biggest one of all, we're here. It's finally the year of the new college football playoff, the 12-team CFP first season 2024 What do we think about it? I think we're going to go over the format a little bit, but are you pro or con? Are you in on this?
You're going to love this answer. I mean, I love it. I love it because it brings more excitement. I get it. Money talks. But last year, there was so much controversy at the end of it. And people were like, oh, thank God it's expanding. And this was the only thing they could have agreed upon. If you want my honest answer, Andy, I would have preferred 8 teams rather than 12. I think 12 is a bit too many. But at the end of the day, I mean, who cares, right? The top 4 teams are getting buys. It's not like all 12 teams are getting treated the same. Even as a Notre Dame fan, like, we can't get higher than the 5 seed, but that's fine. Like,
Look at a home game, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't see the committee making us a top 4 team regardless, even if we went undefeated.
Right.
I heard something too. I don't know if you heard about the New Year's Six Bowls will be introduced in the quarterfinal round, something like that. I was reading up on that. I was trying to make sense of it before we got on here, but I didn't quite get it. So basically on New Year's Day, that's when the quarterfinal games will be happening. I don't know if there's anything more to it than that, but
right. No, that's right. So New Year's Six bowl games are, the quarterfinal. They'll be New Year's Six bowl games will be introduced in the quarterfinal round. That is what it says.
The wording's very weird.
Yeah,
I don't like the wording.
The semifinals will be played in bowls on a rotating basis, while the national championship host site is determined through bids. Okay. Yeah, bowl games. Okay, 2024 quarterfinals are the Fiesta Bowl, the Peach Bowl, the Rose Bowl, and the Sugar Bowl. Okay, so they're announcing for the quarterfinals. So there'll be 4 of the 6 will be quarterfinal games, and then 2 of the 6 will be semifinals, and it'll rotate every year which ones are quarter and semis.
Got it. That makes sense. I mean, my only other question is 5 highest ranked conference champions. You have the Power 4 now. Who's the 5th? They're gonna take the highest G5?
That's a good point. I mean, it would have to be, right? Because you're not going to take the winner of the Pac-2 with Washington State and Oregon State. Imagine the stink from that. Like, one of those teams goes 6-6 and then gets a fucking free pass to the college football playoff. But so we'll talk about the format a little bit here. So it's 12-team playoff bracket. It'll field the 5 highest ranked conference champions. They'll receive auto bids. And then the next 7 highest ranked teams remaining will round out the 12-team format. Top 4 out of those 5 will get automatic buys. So I guess it would be the Power 4 conference champions, I would assume. And then the 5th one, it's got to be a G5, and they'll just have to play in the first round. So conference champs will be seeded 1 through 4. They receive the first round bye. 5 through 12 play each other in the first round. The higher seeded teams will travel. The higher seeded teams will host their first round games. So it'll be, like the NCAA tournament, 5 versus 12, 6 versus 11, 7 versus 10, 8 versus 9. So then you win there. You go on to the quarterfinals versus, these. I assume one will play. I would guess one would play 12 or 5, and then kind of go down from there.
Right.
Like you said, like we just mentioned, the New Year's Six bowl games, they'll be brought in. So the quarterfinals will be the Rose Bowl. It'll be Illinois versus Notre Dame in the quarterfinals for the rights to go to the semifinals or whatever. Play in the Cotton Bowl. A boy can dream. And then here's an interesting one, Tom, because you were talking about last season, the controversy, what the 12-team playoff would have looked like last year. Obviously, you would have had the top 4. So you had Michigan, Washington, Texas, Alabama, Florida State, Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Missouri, Penn State, Ole Miss, and Oklahoma. Or wait, was the ending top 12 in the AP. Number 12 seed would have gone to Liberty because they were the highest G5 team, and they were ranked 23 at the time. They were 13-0. So Liberty would have played at Florida State, Ole Miss at Georgia, Penn State at Ohio State, and Missouri at Oregon. It would have been some decent games. I think, honestly, I would have been curious to see like the Liberty Florida State game, like at that point, since they like were so dilapidated
without Travis.
Yeah. But something to think about. I don't know, but we have it this year, so we're not gonna have to debate. Oh, this fifth team should have got in. This why were they number 6? Which inevitably everybody. I mean, it's college football. We'll argue about absolutely anything. We'll be arguing about the 13th team that didn't get in, for sure. So, like I said, Fiesta Bowl, Peach Bowl, Rose Bowl, and Sugar Bowl this year will be your quarterfinals. Cotton Bowl and Orange Bowl will be the semifinals. In 25, swap the Fiesta Bowl and the Peach Bowl and the Cotton and the Orange. And Fiesta and Peach will be semis. Cotton Bowl, Orange Bowl, Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl will all be quarterfinal games. So, I mean, this is super, super interesting. Obviously, I mean, I'm not going to complain about more football. If you do, the schedule's obviously with more games, the schedule is going to be a little different. So this year, the first round will be December 20th and 21st. The Fiesta Bowl quarterfinals will be the 31st. Peach and the Sugar Bowl will be Jan 1. Orange Bowl, January 9th. Cotton Bowl, January 10th. And the National Championship all the way not until January 20th. So that's getting pushed back quite a bit, which is fine. I'm not opposed to football till the end of or college football till the end of January, and then in 2025 it'll be pretty much the same. 19th and the 20th of December for the first round, quarterfinals on the 31st and the Jan 1, and then semifinals the 8th and the 9th. And the national championship will be on the 19th. So. New year, new me. Tom, you said that at the beginning of the show. New year, new college football playoff. I can't wait. I'm super excited to see, what dark horse team makes it in and, what these home games in the first round are going to look like. Because that's going to be a whole different energy in the crowd, especially, if it's it could potentially be teams in the same conference that are traveling to each other, which are rivalry games. God, I cannot wait for that. So let's get into our shots and chasers, Tom, and let's get out of here. We were talking about earlier, we like it when teams start off with a ranked opponent, and that is exactly what we're going to highlight. So we have a shot and a chaser for each one of the time slots we just picked the Saturday games. I know there's a lot. I mean, starting Thursday and going pretty much all weekend. There's even a game on Sunday, which we're going to highlight. We'll start with the noon slate. Our shot is going to be number 14 Clemson going to number 1 Georgia. Tom, we're both not big fans of Clemson. I'm not a Dabo guy at all, but I will give the Tigers credit for starting the season off in Athens. That does take some cojones, I will say. But let's get your analysis of this game. Give me your prediction. I believe Georgia currently favored by 13.5.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair line. Look at what Clemson lost last season. They lost Will Shipley. They lost Bo Collins. They lost a couple linemen on offense. In my opinion, they didn't lose Ukulele because what is there to lose in him? He's a horrible quarterback. And that's with the most disrespect possible, too. Look, Georgia is going to run all over Clemson in this game. But, yes, I give Clemson a ton of credit for scheduling this on the road at UGA in Athens. How will Cade Klubnik look, right? Phil Maffa takes on the full-time back role. I'm excited to see that. Matchups in this game, Barrett Carter defensively returns for the Tigers at linebacker, going up against Oscar Delp at that second level. I mean, you're looking at a classic showdown of Clemson, who's going to try to run the football up your mouth with Phil Maffa, and you're going to be looking at Georgia. That's going to give you a little bit of everything. You don't know what's coming because Kirby Smart is a really good coach. They have a really good offensive line up front. I think Clemson's run defense is in a little bit of trouble this game, but Even though Georgia did lose Lad McConkey and Brock Bowers offensively, I do think they've done such a good job developing and grooming their underclassmen that they should win this game. Defensively, too, I love what they got. They got Shmael Mandan Jr. back, Nazir Stackhouse up the middle, Dalen Everett at corner, Malachi Starks, projected early first-round pick this year. Yeah, this defense is loaded once again. In fact, Andy, the secondary was their strength last year. The D-line up front was actually their weakness. So with all things considered here, I think Georgia wins, and I think they cover that 13.5-point spread. I'm not going to say it's a blowout, but they'll win by at least 17 points, in my opinion.
I love it. Talk about Georgia, right? They've lost twice in their last 48 games, both of those times coming to Alabama. In those 2 losses, they turned the ball over a combined 3 times. So what does Georgia do? They don't make mistakes. What do they also do? They play really good fucking defense. They're going to blitz the hell out of Klubnik, or that's what they want to do. Against this Kirby Smart defense, you've got to be able to run the ball. You have to. You've got to be able to open it up. You have to be able to take some pressure off the quarterback, or they are just going to absolutely eat Klubnik up. So I'm really curious to see how Klubnik handles this environment in Athens. First of all, how Dabo calls the game offensively. How conservative is he going to be? And, obviously you want to pound the rock, but also in these games, when you're the underdog like this, especially by 2 scores, you got to take a couple chances. So I'm super excited for this game. This one's on ABC, 11 a.m. An awesome, awesome way to kick off the first college football Saturday. Tom, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to take Georgia. I do think they cover the spread as well. I think Clemson's going to hang around, but I think Georgia will pull that classic, hey, we're just better than you, and just going to bully them down the stretch of that third quarter, fourth quarter, and pull away. And I think they're able to cover the spread as well. So we'll move on. Like I said earlier, this was tough to pick games this week. I tried to involve ranked teams. Our next one involves a top 10 team. I don't know about this preseason ranking, by the way, Tom. We'll see what you think about it. But a top 10 team going on the road for a rivalry game in week 1. I know Penn State and West Virginia, not the biggest rivals, but they are right next to each other there in Pennsylvania. I know it's more of a Pittsburgh and West Virginia rivalry, but we'll lump Penn State in here. Number 8, Penn State. That rhymes, I know. I don't like them, though. Going to the Mountaineers. Tom, what do you think about this game?
I'm thinking a lot about this offense and how Drew Aller struggled at times last year, but he did get a new toy, an Ohio State transfer wideout, Julian Fleming. That is a guy who is a slot machine. You can line him up on the boundary. And even though Aller struggled last year, Andy, his numbers weren't bad. He had 25 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions.
Right.
He completed a lot of his passes. And, he lost Theo Johnson to the draft. Shout out to my Giants for taking him. A really good tight end with his hips gets replaced by Tyler Warren. I think they're just going to be fine in that category. Nick Singleton is very reliable. The offense leans on him. And I think Aller's success in this game will be based off how they're able to control the line of scrimmage with the front 5 and Nick Singleton. Defensively for them, Abdul Carter is going to have a good game, I think. In just his first 2 years, he has 11 sacks. West Virginia's quarterback, Garrett Green, very undersized guy, just 5'11", but he plays with a lot more heart than that. He's a dual threat with his legs. You look at Green's numbers last year, 15 touchdown passes, but 13 rushing. They have an experienced offensive line. Their defense should keep them in the game. I'm taking Penn State to win outright because they've typically owned West Virginia in this rivalry, but I think what's more in question is that 8-point spread. I do think they cover, but I think it's close.
All right. Yeah. I mean, it's a 9-point spread, I think.
It's moved up. Okay.
Let me double check that. But the thing
last I checked.
Okay. So in that range, that's close. That's close. So 8, 9. But yeah, I think you hit it on the head here. So there definitely were some big questions for Aller last year, right? And he drew a lot of criticism. And I think that's because in the preseason, there was a lot of hype around him. Let's not forget, people were talking about Drew Aller as a Heisman candidate last year before the season started. Like you said, his numbers weren't awful, but I think there were, a couple throws, a couple ducks go viral. And, that's all people see. They're not watching, the full games. But let's not act like there weren't a couple games down the stretch where Penn State's offense was less than impressive last year. So they're obviously a favorite in this game. Obviously, they're ranked pretty high. So, I mean, there are experts that know more than me that think they are going to be good. So you got a guy like Nick Singleton in the backfield. Obviously, that's going to help take some pressure off Aller, especially if he can get going. He had a little bit of a slump in 2023, so we'll see if he can kind of bounce himself back from that. You mentioned Julian Fleming, hell of an addition for the Nittany Lions, and should open up a lot in the passing game for them. And then Garrett Green. Can he get loose for a couple runs? Can he make some, some throws on the runs, make some things happen for this offense? I think the Mountaineer crowd is going to be pretty rowdy and ready to go. So we'll see if they can pull off an upset. But I'm also going to take the Nittany Lions here. But we're on the same page. I don't know if they cover the number. I see this as I'll say a 3 to 6 point win. I honestly think West Virginia can hang around.
Like it.
So we'll move on. So we'll go to the 3:30 slate, 3:30 Eastern slate. This is another one. Okay, I'll admit these two games, I don't know. I may have picked them because they have one team with the number in front of them, but we're not going off much here, okay? It's week 1, okay? Number 19, Miami, is going to Gainesville to take on the Gators. Tom, what do you think about this one? You saw Florida play live last year, get absolutely whooped by Georgia. And I don't think the outlook for the Gators this year is much better.
No, it's not. And they lost Ricky Pearsall Jr. They lost guys, and their leading returning receiver is Eugene Wilson, who had 6 touchdowns last season, and he was just a freshman. Need I remind everybody?
You know where his dad went to school?
Georgia?
The University of Illinois, my friend.
Oh.
He was a safety for Illinois before going on to a very nice NFL career as a safety.
That's awesome. But yeah, he's going to be a factor. Graham Mertz, he's improved since his time at Wisconsin. I think last year, Andy, the adjustment from the Big Ten to the SEC was very overwhelming for him.
Yeah.
And he only threw 3 picks. The problem was he was inaccurate. He was inaccurate to the point where the defense couldn't even read him. Look, you got Cam Ward coming in for Miami. Damian Martinez, too, transferring in from Oregon State. I like that. So Pac-12 guys coming into the ACC with the Hurricanes. But defensively, Florida gets Joey Slackman coming over from Penn, had 4 sacks last year. The run defense is going to be a problem. But Miami is only favored by 2.5 points.
Right.
This is a very, very slippery game. And you know what, Andy? It's tough to play in the swamp. There's going to be a lot going on. It's week 1. You never know what's going to happen. Give me the Gators in an upset. And I don't like that at all, but I'm doing it anyway. It is tough to play in the swamp. You're never on your A game there as the road team.
Somewhere Ryan Maloney is smiling. He is a big Gator fan. Yeah, and you get that don't back down playing, and it's something different in the swamp. It is a tough place to play. Something doesn't feel right. I'm glad you brought up this 2.5 point spread, because it doesn't feel like enough. We have our first rat line of the year, ladies and gentlemen. It stinks. You got to sniff that out. I think God damn it. Florida money line. They're supposed to be so bad, but we just have to, you got to just plug your nose and you just got to bet it and just hold on for dear life. Cam Ward coming over for the Hurricanes this year, looking for, a rejuvenation to that Miami team. They finished last year 7-6. They went to the Pinstripe Bowl. They won. But Mario Cristobal obviously spent a lot of money to bring him there. He's proven at pretty much every stop he's had in his coaching career that he is one of the best recruiters in the nation. He is not, he doesn't have a lack of talent. Let me say that he's had multiple 4- and 5-star recruits commit and come in. I'm not going to pretend to know everybody on the Miami roster for sure, but I do know his recruiting prowess, and I've seen a couple commitments here and there. We can't agree on every pick, but I do I have to take Florida now because it's just that line just does not make any sense at all. So give me the Gators. Let's go. Let's fucking go. We'll go to our chaser for this one. And we're going to go Colorado State is going to Austin to play the Texas Longhorns. There was a couple, they're Ohio State's playing Akron as well. There's a couple other ranked teams that are playing just nobodies. So I tried to pick the one mid-major team I thought had the best chance to not win, but just hang around. And by hang around, I mean, I don't know, keep it within 2 or 3 scores. So Tom, what do you think Quinn Ewers and the Longhorns against the Rams in Colorado State?
I mean, Texas is so good. I mean, they got Isaiah Bond in the transfer portal out of Alabama. I mean, that guy is really, really good. And I think Quinn Ewers last season really showed a lot, especially in that game where they beat Alabama, making the CFP. That was impressive in their own right. I believe this line was at 32 last I checked. That's a lot of points. I don't think they're covering that line, even at home. Colorado State is no slouch of a team. You cannot take them lightly. I mean, realistically speaking, for them at quarterback, Braden Fowler Nicolisi is a redshirt sophomore coming in, and you got Armani Winfield as well. A guy who has some talent, another transfer for that team. Other than that, there are not many standouts on the Rams. So give me Texas, but Colorado State will certainly cover that spread. Hook 'em horns and look out for that defense this year too. I know we'll get more into them in upcoming weeks, but they're good. Sarkisian's got a gem in this team.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the quarterback. He went viral a couple weeks ago. Allegedly turned down $600,000 to enter the transfer portal and transfer somewhere else, came back to Florida State. So we will see how that goes, but I'm with you here. I'm going to go Texas. I think they win by 24 to 28 points.
So they cover the Rams.
So yeah, the Rams cover. So hammer Colorado State, or you can just take the opposite of whatever we say. And that might be right too, because I'm normally wrong. But here we go. I know Tommy's excited for this one. Our shot for the 7 o'clock window. Notre Dame traveling to Aggie Land to take on Texas A&M. Tom, I'm just going to let you fire away. Let's hear it.
Well. Look, they got a lot of transfers in their receiving corps. Cyrus Allen and Trey Watson coming in to help out Connor Wegman. This is a guy who is a young quarterback. He's 6'3". He had a decent year last year. It was his first year full-time starting, I believe. Look, I believe Kyle Field is a tough place to play. Notre Dame has this is a disrespectful line, though, the fact that A&M's favored by 3. It's because they're home, yes. I'm not sure how I feel about Riley Leonard yet. I know I've mentioned this a couple times throughout the show tonight, Andy. He's coming off an injury that he suffered against Notre Dame last year when playing for Duke. So we heard our future quarterback. That's nice. I mentioned before, Knapp against Scorton. That matchup is going to, I think, define this game. Notre Dame's ranked number 7. They have a lot of receivers. Mitchell Evans is coming back off the injury last year, tight end. He's done a good job filling the shoes of Michael Mayer, who's now in the NFL. Defensively, too, I didn't bring this up before, Andy, but Benjamin Morrison is a projected first-round corner this year for us. He's just entering his junior year. I think he had 5 or 6 picks as a true freshman. And our DBs are the biggest strength of this team. So we are ready to challenge A&M and the Aggies down the field. Xavier Watts star safety coming off a 7-pick season at safety. That defense is no joke. Jack Heiser coming back at linebacker. Jalen Sneed, the rover, sideline to sideline scraper. Drake Bowen filling in as a starter. And I mentioned Howard Cross III and Riley Mills are two of those 4 fifth-year seniors starting on that defensive line. They'll fill the A and B gaps and I think limit the running game. RJ Bowen, new edge rusher, also transferring from Duke. I thought that was interesting. And quickly want to shout out my buddy Reno Monteforte, the new starting long snapper for the Irish from Long Island, New
That's
York.
awesome.
Interviewed him on my podcast a couple years ago when he was a rising freshman. But this is what it is for me, Andy. Marcus Freeman now enters his 3rd full season as head coach of Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman has proven that he could win big games like this. And what a test on the road against an SEC opponent week 1. Give me the Irish off the foot of Mitch Jeter, 45 yards. Notre Dame wins by a field goal.
Oh, I love it. I love it. We've had our first rat line. We now have our first disrespectful line, as Tom said. I do think you're right. Them being at home is probably good for, the 3 points, 2.5 maybe. But I love the Irish in this game. I'll be taking Fighting Irish money line plus 125. I mean, that feels like stealing money. I say that now, but then we'll watch it. But Texas A&M's coming off a 7-6 season. You are correct. They did really reload on offense, try to put some real options and weapons around Connor Wegman. But I don't know. This is Marcus Freeman's 3rd year at the helm of the Irish. You got Riley Leonard coming in. He's being talked about, not as a Heisman favorite, but his name gets thrown around in the conversation, as somebody whose odds aren't that crazy. Notre Dame coming off 10-3, obviously looking to get into that first 12-team playoff, and starting off with a tough game. I'll give you guys credit for going down to Texas A&M to start off the season. You could have started off with fucking Ball State or Eastern who the fuck State or something like that. And so this will be a good game. You got it in prime time over on ABC. A lot of good games on ABC this week. But yeah, give me the Irish as well. Give me the Irish. So we'll just be all the same on all of these. So our last game. So normally we would do one in the second one in the Saturday late window. But Tom brought this one to my attention because we have a Sunday college football game this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. It is another ranked matchup. It's in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. USC, number 23, Lincoln Riley's Trojans in the top 25, going against Tom's favorite head coach, the Brian Kelly-led LSU Tigers, with Garrett Nussmeier under center, coming in ranked at number 13. Tom, what do you think about this game?
I think it's going to be a very, very interesting game, and here's why. Not just because these are 2 ranked teams out of conference, but these are 2 unknowns at the quarterback position, if you really think about it. You had Jaden Daniels last year at quarterback for LSU and Caleb Williams for USC. They're both in the NFL. In fact, they were the top 2 picks of this year's draft. Not to mention, LSU also lost Malik Neighbors. They lost Brian Thomas Jr. as well. Mm-hmm. So they lost 2 of their top 3 receivers to the draft. They tried to reload with CJ Daniels out of Liberty, but Brian Kelly knows how to work an offense. I just don't know how I feel about Nussmeier yet. I don't know much about him. At least last year, Andy, we got to see a little bit of Miller Moss. I didn't think he was bad when he came in the game. He seemed
he had like composed, 5 touchdowns in the bowl game, didn't he?
Yeah, he was very, very impressive in that. For me, though, for USC, it's going to come down to, can they play defense? They couldn't play defense against the formerly known Pac-12 last season. How are they going to play defense, Andy, on the road against an SEC team? I mean, in fact, half of their defense are transfers. 5 out of their 11 starters are transfers. Like, they really don't feel confident in their defense at all. I mean, I know Mason Cobb is a solid player, Jacoby Covington, at the right side corner, but I mean, defensively, they're not going to be able to hold up, Andy, against LSU. Give me the Tigers in this one. 4 points, yeah, I think that covers it against USC. I just think there's too many moving pieces, man. The defense, the quarterback, it's tough, and I'm more confident with an SEC team filling in those voids, folks. When in doubt, you always take the SEC.
So this is going to be a really interesting game. Obviously, it's in Vegas. It's a neutral site. You have this high-powered Lincoln Riley offense coming in. You got the brand new quarterback for both teams, like you mentioned. Heisman winners for both of those, again, like you mentioned. But Brian Kelly has struggled in opening games in his LSU tenure. He's 0-2 the past 2 years. They've got a new defensive coordinator coming from Tigers to Tigers. Blake Baker, Missouri's defensive coordinator last year, has taken over the role. His second stint at LSU, he was the linebackers coach in 2021. So he's looking for it to kind of revamp the LSU defense. They've got a reworked secondary. We'll see how they hold up in this game against, Caleb Williams or not, it's still a Lincoln Riley offense, right? And we've seen how good his offenses can be. Garrett Nussmeier, not a lot of, sample size last year, obviously with Jaden Daniels, but he was 48 for 78 for 591 yards with 4 touchdowns and 1 interception last year. We have a Liberty transfer coming in, a receiver, CJ Daniels, has joined LSU. He caught 55 passes last year for 1,067 yards and 10 touchdowns. He looks to make an impact on this Tigers offense. See if he might be able to be, the next LSU receiver get drafted in the NFL. So Nussmeier's got a couple weapons around him. Tight end Mason Taylor. We got to mention the tight ends, Tom. 36 receptions for 348 yards and 1 touchdown last year. And then last year in the ReliaQuest Bowl, Nussmeier and Taylor hooked up 7 times for 88 yards. Wow. So look for him to use the tight end early and often. I am also going to take Yeah, give me the Tigers. I'll take LSU. I don't trust USC, even if it's their defense was so bad last year. I don't know. I don't know much about the USC defense at this point. So we'll see how they hold up, but it's interesting. It's two teams that are, not necessarily fully rebuilt, but it's hard to come back from two incredible quarterbacks like that, super quickly. So we'll see what these guys have. But give me LSU. So we were 6 for 6. Whatever, Tom. It's been an incredible time with you, my friend. We're back. I shouldn't say recapping. We are previewing. Before we get out of here, Tom, anything you want to plug? Obviously, all of your awesome work over at Review and Preview. I know you have Big Blue Avenue coming back for the Giants. Let us know. You got anything you want to plug?
Yes, sir. So next Tuesday, NFL preview show, Review and Preview. It'll be myself, Noah Deibler, and Jason Edmondson on the call for that show. That'll be Tuesday, I believe, around 7 or 8 p.m. We haven't confirmed the time yet. And then Wednesday, it'll be Big Blue Avenue, the Week 1 preview show. Sam Cardona and myself previewing the Giants Week 1 game against the Minnesota Vikings.
Noah Deibler, friend of From the Stands, filled in for us last year while Brian was out. Georgia fan. But Tom, it has been incredible to be sharing a mic with you once again, sir. I'm looking forward to this year. This is always one of the highlights of my week, getting to talk to you and Brian and chop it up about college football. I cannot wait for tomorrow. I can't wait for Saturday. It's it's in full swing, and we got the NFL next week. It's like I am a kid in a absolute I'm in a kid at a candy store right now. I can't even talk. But yeah, let me get out of here. Remember, follow From the Stands on social media. Find us on YouTube. Give this video a like. Share it with a friend. Tell us your favorite team. Give us your picks for this week. Only if they're winners, though. We don't want losers at all. Don't give them. But for Tom Scavetta, I'm Andy Hopper. This is From the Stands College Football Show, Week 1. We'll be back next week with Brian McCardle leading the show. He will be back from wherever the hell he is. He's off the grid. We're not supposed to say. He's probably pissed we even brought it up.